Hey everyone, it's Cindy Lawrence here to color up a couple of simple images using Copic markers and Power Poppy's Valentines digital stamp set. We're going to be making a couple of cards today using complementary colors. Those are colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel, so they will create a lot of contrast and a lot of pop on your images. Our first card is going to be using some yellows and purples together, as well as some warm grays. I'm going to begin by coloring up this image, which I printed out on Express It blending card with I have an inkjet printer that works great. Some people use laser. Mine is a Canon PhotoSmart printer. I'm coloring a base on my cheese here using the Y32 Copic marker. And my second color is Y35, going in all the little holes on my cheese there, adding some shading. And I've got YR24 as my shadow color, and I'm just blending those colors together. Very simple blending on this. This is a whimsical image. It's not a realistic image, so don't spend a lot of time blending. Just have fun with it. You just want to see a little contrast there. And then the little hearts, I'm going to also do those in yellows, since those are really little grated pieces of cheese through that neat little heart grater in the image. So again, we will add some YR24 to cast some shadows on each one of those little hearts, and then we'll blend it out with our Y35. Very simple blending. You can see I'm not spending a lot of time on this. Just a quick blend. And you can go back in with your Y32 if it needs a little more blending with your lightest color, just to get rid of any hard lines there. Now I'm going to come in with my RV63, my lightest purple color, really red-violet, and just color over the entire grater there, going around all those little tiny hearts. Those are all the little cutouts of the grater. It's what does the grating. So we're going to go around them, just color the base in, and then come in and start to add our shading with our RV66. Such a pretty color family. And how many times do you get to see a purple cheese grater? I mean, really. I kind of want one. So I'm just going around on the edges. Put quite a bit of this color down. I think one thing we forget sometimes when we are coloring is that our middle color is usually the color that our object is. So that lightest color is not necessarily the color you're going to see the most of when you're done. So here I am just blending between the two colors, softening those edges, getting a nice smooth blend. And now I'll come in with my darkest color, which is RV69, and just add a little bit of that to the shadow areas, and then baby step my way back through the colors, back to the RV66, and then back to the RV63, just blending out as I go. And some colors blend together a little more easily than others. Some you have to work a little bit. And then I'll add a little bit of color to the word pretty up there, using that same color family just to coordinate it all together and keep it simple. This is a small image, not something we need to use lots and lots of markers for. Which is funny coming from me. but we're not going to use a lot of markers on this card. I actually used, I think, 10 in total, and 4 of them were grays. So now that we've got our word done, we're going to start on the background. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, wouldn't it have been easier to do the background first? Why, yes, it would have, but that's just not how I roll. I always do things the hard way. So you may want to do your background before you color the rest of your image in. So I'm starting with W3 in close to the image in the center area, all around all the parts of the image with that W3, just a really light coat there. And then I've moved down to W1 and I'm blending out, fading it out. So just making it lighter as it gets out towards the white area of the paper. Now, if you don't work quickly doing this, your paper will dry and it will be a lot harder to blend that out into the white. I'm working very quickly, not quite as quickly as you're seeing. You're seeing it in double time, but I am working pretty quickly, so I will be able to blend that out. So now I've got my colorless blender. That's your 0 marker. That's the magic pen that will blend out those edges, just going over it all the way around the edge and softening the lines. So it gets rid of that hard line and it just gives it a nice fade to white. Now I often will put the colorless blender down first and then do my blending, but this time I did it the other way. So now we're moving on to our next card, and the complementary colors on this one are blue and orange. And this one is You Make My Heart Melt. I love this one. So this one will have a little more of a masculine feel to it. I'm starting with the flames at the bottom, and I'm going to give them a bit of an ombre effect. The yellow that I'm using here is Y15, a nice bright yellow. So I'm putting that on the bottom of all the flames, and then I'm coming in with an orange marker. This is YR16, and I'm going to go in the middle of each one of those flame areas. It's just extending further up than I did with the yellow. Just very quickly, don't overthink this. And then finally I'll come in with a red. This is R08, which is a very warm orangey red. I'm going to put that on the tips of the flames. Now this technique here, you really could have done this dark to light. I have a tendency to start light to dark. I've been doing it for 15 years, so that's just kind of my go-to, but if I really had thought this through, I probably would do this dark to light. It'll put a little less ink down on your paper and be less likely to want to push outside the lines. And you don't want that with red, trust me. If you've ever used a red Copic marker, you know how easily they want to push outside the lines. So here I am going back to my orange, my YR16, and I'm just blending where it meets that red so it softens the lines. Just getting rid of any hard edges. Softening as I go. Blending out. One of the things that can sometimes happen when we do this is we end up going too far with our midtone the second time we come back in, and we lose our highlight color. In this case, that is the Y15, the yellow. So be very careful not to go too far down when you are blending. So now I've got my lightest color, and I'm doing one final blend as I go through all of the rest of the flames on this image. So fun. I love that combo. Now this ombre effect you could do on clothing, you could do in a sky background. There's lots of flowers. There's lots of great ways you could do this with different shades that are close together on the color wheel. These are not complementary. These three colors here are coordinating or harmonious colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. And now as we get into coloring the hearts in the bowl or in the pan, this is a complementary color to that orange. So orange and blue are opposite each other on the color wheel, so you can see how that's just really gonna pop right off the page. Very vibrant. If you're looking for a bold look, this is a great way to do it. Use complementary colors. So I started with a base of BG11, and I'm coming in now and adding some BG23 as my mid-tone color. And then my shadow color will be BG18. Sometime I'll do a video where I talk about the numbering system and how that all works. I know it's a little confusing, and I'm sure there's lots of videos out there that explain that as well. You can never have too many, right? So here I am going back with my mid-tone color and just blending again, right where it meets that dark color, and then baby stepping my way backwards back to the BG11 and just blending that out one more time. And of course I have to go back in with my darkest color and add a few more shadow pops in there just to make them a little bit deeper. I like the depth with the dark colors. So now for my pan, I decided to do more of a cast iron pan. So I'm using some warm grays for that. I started with a base of W5. I'm just coloring the whole thing in with that W5. And then I'll come in and add some shading in with my W7. Give it some nice depth there, especially the inside of the pan, along the bottom. Now I'm using my W9 to give it some real depth in the shadow areas. Once I'm happy with that, I'll come back and I'll blend in between the colors. Just soften those up. It's really easy to do too much, again, of your mid-tone and lose your highlights, so be careful with that. The more you go over it, the darker your image is going to be, so keep that in mind as well. So here I am just crisping up some of those shadows, just to give them a little extra pop, a little extra depth. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to add some color to a couple of my words up there. I'm doing that same ombre effect on the word melt with those same colors I used on the flames. So that's a Y15, YR16, and R08. And then for the word make, I'm going to use the blues, BG11, BG23, and BG18. Again, doing an ombre effect. It's very pretty, very simple. Don't overthink it. Just a quick little blend there, soften the edges, and you're done. And then my final touch is to come in with a BG10, a BG10, and do the background. Just keeping it very simple. Again, I could have done the background first, but I like a good challenge. And I also apparently didn't realize I was off the screen, half off the screen on this one, so I apologize for that. I'm just going all around the whole image and doing that same quick background technique. It grounds the image so that it's not just kind of floating up in the air there. And doing really light, quick flicks. using the side of my brush. The more of the side of my brush I use, the less likely I will make streaks on my paper. I'm okay with it not being perfectly smooth. It's just a background, so it's okay with me if it's not all 100% even in tone. It just has a little bit of blotchiness to it, and that kind of makes a nice background. So here I am going around the image with my colorless blender and softening all of those edges. Smooth that right out so it fades out nicely into the white. And there it is, ready to be put on a card. So here are the finished cards. And then I have a couple of other samples using the same set. That's a cute little set. That's the one I posted last week. And then this one's one of my favorite images in the set. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day.